Hey, welcome once again to Next Chapter Living, Planning Your Retirement Story. I'm Jeff Miles. I'm joined by Stephen Sabo, financial advisor at Executive Financial Group. You can actually go to their website and get lots of information about your retirement at executivefinancialgroup.com. Once again, that's executivefinancialgroup.com. And also, before we get started, make sure that you are subscribed to the podcast. Want to make sure you're getting all the information that you can possibly get. I mean, this is very educational for many people who are listening, and you might have questions about retirement if you are currently retired or you're thinking about retiring very soon. Then again, go to the website at executivefinancialgroup.com and make sure that you are subscribed to the podcast. All the episodes are loaded up there for you to if you want to binge on some of this stuff as well. So as we get started, Stephen Sabo, once again, dude, it's always a great time to catch up with you and see how things are going. Social Security is something that I know that is, there's not a single retired person who's not at some point thinking, Social Security, when do I start? There is an article in Barron's that talks about how people were being swayed after getting notifications. This is a very interesting story, right? And Facebook, right? I mean, you see it on Facebook and it makes you question things. But notifications on Facebook about how many of their high school classmates had died before the age of 70. And the story is talking about how you need to look at three factors that all start with H: health, heredity, human nature. So what does that mean exactly, these three H's?
Yeah, those are kind of the three big things that we take a look at whenever it is time to decide about Social Security. And it's funny, that you say that it's a Facebook article or something like that is kind of, guiding their decision. Most people that we see, there's resources out there. Hey, we're here. We're not as scary as people think. Yeah, we're not as scary as people think. We want to work with you. We want to be out there, but people usually go off of, well, so-and-so at work told me this, or I saw online, or, there was a Facebook article where I'm seeing all these people dropping. But, those three H's are the big things that we kind of take a look at. Your health, that's important. How long, what is your health like? If you told me that, hey, Stephen, I'm in terrible shape, but I'm going to wait until I'm 70 to take my Social Security, my question would be, well, why? If you know that you're in bad shape, why are you going to do that? But on the flip side of that, you might say, hey, I'm in great shape. I work out every single day. And, going to that next stage, the hereditary, my parents lived until they were 97 and 99, right. So that's a big factor. And then the human nature aspect of it. And that's kind of an interesting one because, the first two, I think you kind of talked about it, are almost, those are kind of almost gimmies. Everybody is thinking about that. But the human nature aspect of it is interesting because can people wait? Will they make the right decisions during that waiting period with the money that they have and what they're doing, if they need to draw an income from there? And, it's just everybody is different in how they work and how they do things. So, that's kind of a big one there is, can you do that? Can you wait? Or, is it, are you too jumpy and you want to take it as early as possible? And then that's a mistake. So
there's a part of me too, that when the human nature question gets thrown in there, does any of that have to do with your expenses, your lifestyle, the things that you enjoy doing? Is it part of how much do you already have in some of the other buckets when it comes to your retirement planning?
Absolutely. We're financial advisors. We're not magicians, so we can't just make things happen. And, that plays a very big part into it because, we do need to see if you are going to wait, can you create an income while you're waiting from the assets that you have that are going to last you? And then from there, last you on in the rest of your life, or if you take it too early, what is going to happen as far as what's down the road? But we want to, we kind of do a calculation with people to determine what's the best route for you, because a lot of people, you'll hear people say, well, I should wait, or so-and-so told me, or the government likes to tell you to wait. But we want to take a look at those numbers when you're 62, when your retirement age, and for everybody that's a little bit different, might be 65, could be 66 or 66 and a half, 67 for some people. For me, it'll probably be 97 at this point.
But, by the time we get there, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, but those are all important things. How much do you have? Can you draw an income? what's going to happen if you wait, what happens between that period in the stock market, and where are your assets. So those are all big, important things that we take a look at whenever we're determining, is now the right time to take your Social Security.
You know, one of the things that I'm sure kind of plays into the human nature part is kind of, I guess, people's anxiety levels when it comes to the news that they hear. Because obviously, and I know we've talked about this a little bit before in some previous podcasts about the idea, Social Security, if it goes away, you know, down the road one day, or if there has to be this pullback, you know, what was it? I think 2035, they're saying it could pull back to where it's about 70% of what, you know, you would currently see, so to speak. For many people, as they're looking at this, does that play into that human nature aspect of when they should start taking Social Security? And is what they're seeing on the news all the time with, I don't want to call it fear mongering, because at the same time, this is projections that are being put out by, you know, the people who run these programs and things like that. Right. So it's information that you kind of want to have. At the same time, it does put a little bit of, I would say, insecurity in the world of my anxiety levels if I'm looking at Social Security down the road.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you know, that's a pretty big thing whenever it comes to it. Is, like you said, I know that it's good information for you to have, because you need to make, you know, your decisions based on these things. But we try and help our clients tune the noise out a little bit and say, all right, we got to take a step back and let's look at where you are. Let's look at all of these different factors that go into it. We can't just make a knee-jerk reaction off of something that we heard online or something that's being pumped through the news to us every single day. And you know, so we want to calm the clients down and say, all right, let's take a step back from this. Let's tune that noise out and let's come up with a plan, and let's put the numbers to the paper and say, all right, what makes the most sense? Can we do this? So,
are there ever situations where someone is surprised that it might be a better situation for your particular situation to start drawing on your Social Security a little earlier than maybe waiting until, you know, that 70 mark? Or, you know, for some people, they like to go even further because the benefit increases, you know, up over 100%, let's say.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up. I think it's a surprising thing for a lot of people, because when we sit down, it's really all about the numbers, right? You get that estimate and we take a look, what you would get at 62, what you would get at full retirement, and what you would get at 70. And we run a calculation from there. And a lot of the times we see, if there's not a very big jump in those numbers, we tell people to take it early, because what you give up between 62 and whenever you take it, say it's 66 or it's 70, how long is it going to take to make that up with the higher amount? And a lot of the times when we do that calculation, we find out that people are, you know, it might be 11 years or 12 years. So they're into their 80s at this point before they're actually breaking even on that. Yeah. And so back to the health and hereditary, what are you doing at 80 years old? You know, are you doing all the same things? And do you need as much money as you needed maybe in those earlier years? So, you know, people, a lot of the time they come to us, I can't, 65 or 66 is that age and I just can't do it. And we say, all right, you know, this is like the in a previous podcast that we talked about, we got to run those numbers. Yeah. Is that $1 million the key number? But, you know, for a lot of people, how long is it going to take to make it up? And if you're into your 80s, does that make sense to wait that long?
You know, there's another part of this and a factor too, when you are making these calculations. And listen, I'm sure there's people listening to the podcast right now, and maybe they have questions about even working with a financial advisor. I know, you know, you mentioned before, it was like, hey, we're not bad guys. We're trying to help you out here. But a lot of people you may be very skeptical about just stuff that's going on, especially when it comes to, we're talking about your money. We're talking about some of it coming from the government. We're talking about, you know, basically putting your trust into someone else's hands. But when it comes to two of these H's, like the heredity part is a pretty self-explanatory one. And that's one that, you know, I mean, yeah, you can come in and lie about it, but at the same time, I mean, why would you do that? Because it doesn't benefit you at all. But the other two are kind of interesting, because you might have somebody that comes in and says, well, yeah, but Stephen, I mean, I plan on, you know, still running marathons at 89 years old. And maybe that's not exactly fully true, so to speak. I don't want to call anybody that's feeling that way, you know, like they're not correct about that. But at the same time, sometimes we get a little where we over exaggerate about what our own idea of what that's going to look like down the road.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. We had an example. We have a client, he's a doctor and really great shape. I mean, I think he's 66 and he looks like he could be my age.
Well, and who knows better than a doctor, right? That's
right.
Especially if they're fit.
Yeah. Right. And he seems to believe, he jokes about it, but I think there's something in him too that thinks, he's told us before, Stephen, I think I'm going to live to 120 years old. And how do you plan for something like that? But, you just have to kind of sit back and take a look at it and say, all right, maybe you will be running marathons when you're 89 sure. and but we can't plan for everything. And so you have to make the best decision at the time and say, okay, based on these numbers, based on where we are, this is going to give you, at the end of the day, it's the client's decision no matter what. So if they want to wait as long as possible and then 2 years from then something happens, there's nothing that we can do. We can't look back on that. But we really try and put it in perspective for our clients and say, hey, we've been down this road. We've been here a lot. You may live until you're 120, and I don't know that. But what we see is clients start to age and they get older, they slow down. It's natural. Sure. They start spending a little less money on things. And so are you going to need it until you're over 100 or anything like that? We don't know, but we got to plan for it. And there's a lot of factors that go into that. And,
the reason I really kind of bring that up is because when you look at a Facebook article, let's say, and you do see something like this and, you start thinking, well, there's no doubt, like many people, you see something on social media, the wheels start turning in your head and you start thinking about all these different factors that can go into it. You're not Facebook. And I think that's one of the biggest messages here is that you're not social media. You're coming from a professional perspective, not one that's just kind of, a Facebook article that somebody might end up with in their feed. And I think one of the other things is that as far as, somebody coming in to have a meeting with you, they need to be realistic about themselves and who they are so that the expectations of what you're going to be giving them lines up more with the information they've given you, right? Because if they're not giving you the full story, it's very difficult to make as accurate of a prediction, I guess you would say, as you can.
Yeah, it's tough for people. I know that this is, a kind of a sensitive subject. It's your money, it's your personal life. Sometimes, this spills into your family life and how things are going. And I know that people don't want to necessarily always talk to a random person about those things. But it is important because, like you said, sometimes you're only hurting yourself whenever you don't let us know about something or we don't have an idea or an understanding of something that if we can't plan for it or if we didn't know about it, then, we're going to just have to deal with it as it comes. And sometimes that's a little bit harder than, if we had a plan up front. So it's important to, just like going to your doctor, you gotta be truthful with them and you got to let them know what's going on so that they can make the best decisions because, at the end of the day, that's what I'm here for is I really do want to make good decisions for my clients and I need to know everything in order to do that. So don't be afraid. You can tell us.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Is that listen, you're working with family. There's a lot of experience. Your father started this back in the '80s, and this has been something that's been. I know that your sister also works with you guys, so it's not like you're going in to talk to some rando person who is just another suit, so to speak. Sure. This is somebody that is well established in the community and things like that, and. I'm not saying that makes everybody feel at ease automatically, but, if you want to go in, you want to talk to Stephen, you want to talk to people in the family, then maybe that does give you a little bit of ease as opposed to just reading an article on Facebook that tells you when you're supposed to take Social Security, because I don't know how much validity is in that, right?
Yeah, no. And we've seen a lot. We've seen all kinds of different scenarios. You're not going to shock us with anything really. Sure. So, and like you said, it's so much better than reading it on Facebook. How many times have you read about a sickness or an illness on WebMD and all of a sudden you're calling your doctor freaking out because you think you have the worst possible outcome. And really it's, you've got a little cold or something like that. And you're sitting there sweating it because of that. So
Well, and you know what? I'm going to throw this as one last kind of like, twist into the whole thing. And that's a Facebook article probably doesn't speak to many of the people in your own community. And one of the great things about, Stephen, you and your dad and the whole family there at Executive Financial Group is the fact that you've been there for many years and you have handled many people in the community. There's got to be a sense of where a lot of people may have been in similar situations when it comes to getting into their retirement, that you may be, the questions that you may have may be coming from many of the people that you've worked with in the past. So you do have a little bit of that basis to go on, as opposed to just a random story from the internet that just kind of, sets you off into a place of, oh my gosh, I got to jump on now.
Yeah, we're a lot more alike, I think, than people really think that they are. We as humans, we do a lot of the same stuff. Maybe there's little nuances that are different, but most of the time, whenever somebody comes in, we've dealt with a situation that is very similar to what they're in, and we've navigated it. And so, don't be afraid. Come on in. That's what we're here for.
The 3 H's of Social Security. So health, heredity, human nature. Don't believe everything you read on Facebook. At the same time, you do want to talk to a financial advisor about your Social Security. When the best time for you to take that is definitely a question to ask of someone like Stephen Sabo and the family there at Executive Financial Group. You can get more information on the website at executivefinancialgroup.com. Again, that's executivefinancialgroup.com. While you're on the website, make sure you subscribe to the podcast, and you're getting lots of information that we're going to be sharing with you as it pertains to your retirement. And Stephen, it's always a pleasure, man. Thanks so much for all the time today. And hopefully a lot of people got a lot of really good information out of this podcast as opposed to necessarily a Facebook post.
Yeah, no, thank you, Jeff. It was a really great time. And, like I said, I hope people are taking this in and really enjoying it, because there is a lot of good information, and, you can come and talk to somebody instead of just running scenarios through your head that you have no idea what's going on. So.
Very good. Again, the website is Executive Financial Group. Make sure you like and subscribe. The podcast will be putting out new episodes every 2 weeks. So kind of have your idea that it's going to be coming at you. And so when you get that little notification, make sure you check it out and get a little bit more education from what's going on in the world of retirement. I'm Jeff Miles. Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you next time. Stephen, always a pleasure.
Thank you, Jeff. We appreciate it.
The opinions expressed by Stephen Sabo and guests on this podcast are their own and do not reflect the opinions of this podcast station. All statements and opinions expressed are based upon information considered reliable, although it should not be relied upon as such. Any statements or opinions are subject to change without notice. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Past performance cannot be used as an indicator to determine future results. Any strategies mentioned may not be suitable for everyone. Information expressed does not take into account your specific situation or objectives and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for you. Before acting on any information mentioned, please consult with a qualified tax or investment advisor to determine if it is suitable for your specific situation. This program is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information with regard to subject covered. Investment advisory services offered through Virtue Capital Management, LLC, VCM, a registered investment advisor. VCM and Executive Financial Group are independent of each other. Pennsylvania Insurance License number 670429. Any guarantees mentioned are backed by the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company and may be subject to caps, restrictions, fees, and surrender charges as described in the annuity contract.